Hello and welcome to chapter 81 of the Tao Te Ching, moving on to the final chapter of the Tao. Just as, here's Lou, the final chapter of the Tao, blossoming leaders. I don't know what to say about this yet, but let's go ahead and read it and see what comes up. True words may not sound comforting, yet comfort those they are meant for. However, comforting words are never true. Connected to source, there is no desire to prove. Desire to prove only exposes separation from source. The master's possessions are not part of the manifestation. Giving away her possessions, she only receives more. Tao blesses everyone in this way. When this blessing can be received, domination and power will yield, while all people will blossom as leaders. So there are a couple things. One, connected to source, there is no desire to prove. Desire to prove only exposes separation from source. So what does that sort of relate to? Let's look at these first lines. True words may not sound comforting, yet comfort those they are meant for. However, comforting words are never true. So two things. One, you can be speaking to someone and they can hear what they need to hear. Yet a third party may hear what you're saying without being the person you're speaking to, or without being you. Now, you are guided to say something through Tao. They are guided to hear something through Tao. And this third party is guided to hear something through Tao. And so they don't sound comforting. And maybe there's fear in that third party. Oh my God, what you're saying is horrible. How can you say that to this person? But they understand. And these are problems that we get into when we try to communicate, because what I hear and what you say, or vice versa, don't have anything to do with one another. For me to say something, that's because Tao is calling me to say it. What you hear is because Tao is calling you to hear it. Now, how you respond to that, what happens with your mind and stuff like that's all kind of on you. And so connected to source, there's no desire to prove. So what we talk about when we're seeing these two things together, like I have to prove that you're being comforting, right? Because remember, however, comforting words are never true. So if you're going out of your way to be comforting to somebody, or to be nice, or to be whatever it is you want to be, that's proving. You want to prove that you're comforting. I can say, like I say to clients sometimes, oh, you're not very nice. And when they hear that, they're comforted, because there's an honesty to it. And it is being called for me to say. It's not like I'm going out of my way going, I want to tell you you're not a nice person. There's no judgment in it. It's just like, oh, so you're not very nice to this person. And then it's like, oh, well, actually, you're right. I'm not very nice to that person. Well, now that I recognize that, I can change, right? Now, if I want to prove that I care about this person, I can be like, oh, well, you must be, like, oh, you're playing the victim. And then I go along, and then I allow you to play the victim some more. Why do I do that? Because I need to prove that I'm on your side. Desire to prove only exposes separation from source. So I don't have to prove that I'm on your side to be on your side. I can tell you that, or I don't have to prove I'm on your side to prove that I love you, right? Like, I can love you and still be like, hey, you're kind of a dick. That's okay, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And then all of a sudden, everybody has the power to, like, right, what I'm doing by saying, oh, you're not a nice person, is I'm putting the ball in your court. I'm not saying, oh, you're the victim, let's figure out how you can address this differently. No, I say, oh, you're not nice. And then they go, oh, I can hear that. I can hear that because it's meant for me with love, right? This is just one incident that I said. I mean, I've said this sort of thing to lots of my clients because it's come up, but it's in a very loving way, right? So true words may not sound comforting, yet comfort those they are meant for. And that's what I've experienced as what those lines mean. That's how I've experienced it. Maybe you've experienced it differently. But that's what happens when we move into the next line, because sometimes when we read these, they're so poetic. It's like, well, how does that relate? How does connection to source? There is no desire to prove. Well, why do I have, like, where is the desire to prove in here? Well, it is in making comforting words. Comforting words are to prove that you're on someone's side. Comforting words are to prove. And so that's how these relate, right? Like, it doesn't even have to just be words. It could be actions. It could be thoughts. It could be anything, right? But when you're connected to source, there's no desire to prove. So you don't have to come up with comforting words. You say the truth, and the truth is comforting. Because desire to prove only exposes separation. If I don't say the comforting thing, then you might leave me as a partner, you might leave me as a friend, you might see me as an enemy, and all of these sorts of things, right? So, however, comforting words are never true. So if you just say comforting words, those aren't the truth, right? You want to get to the truth, and you want to be able to expose, you want to be able to tell someone the truth, especially if you love them, right? The master's possessions are not part of the manifestation. Possessions could be words and all of these things. The master's possessions, what the master possesses, are experiences of the masters. They know that their experience, like what they're experiencing, what they're hearing from others, what they're experiencing in their bodies, their fear, all of the things that they have, the master knows this is theirs. And the more they give up of it, giving away her possessions, she only receives more of these experiences, more of this love, more of all of this. I'm going to give it, and I'm not going to hang on to it. And I don't want to lose your love. And so I'm going to hang on. No, I'm going to give it. I don't need to hang on to these things. I don't need to hang on to being comforted. I don't need to hang on to my words. I don't need to be like, I'm going to say something. You're going to hear it. I might not even remember what I've said. I don't need to hold on to it. I don't need to hang on to it. I can just let it go. Tao blesses everyone in this way. You're always receiving. You're always receiving more possession. But are you recognizing of what possession you're receiving? Like, you're like, I want more money. Well, sure, but Tao's not going to necessarily give you more money, especially in that way, right? Like, maybe you want to be comforted. Maybe you want money so that you can feel safe. Okay. Well, money, right? True words may not sound comforting. Money may not comfort. Money may not directly comfort you, yet comfort those that, like, but you're going to receive that which is comforting and that which you need if you can be still without electing to conflict, which is some of the things that we've talked about in recent chapters. So Tao blesses everyone in this way when this blessing can be received. So, okay, like, this is a big caveat right here at the end. When this blessing can be received, domination and power will yield, meaning that other people trying to dominate you will yield. And you trying to dominate and you wanting to dominate or you wanting power will yield as well. That desire will yield. Remember, we've been talking all of this about getting rid of ego or getting rid of desire, or getting rid of want and all that stuff. All of that stuff is going to yield when you can receive the blessing of Tao. So Tao blesses everything in this way. In what way? In a way that allows you to have your experience separate from everybody else. And your experience is your treasure, is your possession. And when you take your possession and you give it away and you don't hold on to it, you learn, but you allow it to release. You learn and release. You don't learn and then cement ideas around what you've learned. Because you learned it through one experience doesn't mean that the next experience is going to be the same thing. I was talking to someone recently who learned something at 10, and here she is in her 40s, and she's like, I still believe that. Well, that's fucking stupid. Like, a 10-year-old is going to believe things differently. You're going to see the world differently than a 40-year-old. So you got to be able to balance those things out and understand the world from a broader perspective than from when you were 10, and then solidified all of these ideas. So when you can receive that gift of this experience is currently and only mine, domination and power will yield, while all people will blossom as leaders. All people blossom as leaders. When we go back to the beginning of this, we see this idea of like true words may not sound comforting, yet comfort those they are meant for, meaning that the people who hear the words become the leaders and they lead themselves through it. The person who says it, the master who says the words that are coming from Tao, are just like, they don't need credit. They don't need a pat on the back that they helped somebody. They just allow it to continue. You don't need to get paid for it. You just say it and allow people to be. And that's the best. And as long as you're not trying to prove anything, right? You're not trying to prove that you're something. You're not trying to prove you're right. You're not trying to prove anything. And you're not trying to comfort anyone. You're just being honest. That is when, like, you're going to be blessed with, the abundance that, you are, that is your right as part of Tao, as being part God, as being you. Like, this is your life. Life is a gift received from Tao, and everything is sustained in support of that gift. You are being sustained by Tao for the gift of the lives that surround you. And those individuals are being sustained by Tao as part of your gift of life. And when you can be present, open, and communicate clearly, and clearly meaning your heart is clear, your mind is clear, and you can communicate, then everything you say will comfort those that you speak to because they're meant for them. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the Tao Te Ching. Now that I've wrapped up, I might do an intro and conclusion or something. I don't know. But maybe I'll just end it here. Maybe I'll just let it all just sit here. I know it's not going to get a lot of views or anything because I'm not going to be marketing it or nothing. But if you are hearing this, thank you for listening. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you checking out the Tao. The Tao Te Ching changed my life and continues to change my life. I feel like I am awesome because of the Tao and because ultimately of the gift of life that I've received. And I am grateful for it. I'm grateful for you. Thank you again for joining me on this journey of the Tao Te Ching. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.